Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Video number 2 of the day. We've done cash lineup review. Let's talk about the showdown tonight, and then we'll jump right into baseball. We'll just give some brief insight on the 2-game slate of what we think. I'm pumped. Brewers at Cubs should be a good game. Out in the cold, playoff baseball, Matt, out in the elements when it's like 45 degrees outside. Doesn't feel like real baseball, but we got 2 teams excited to go. And if you're a Rockies or Dodgers fan, you got the afternoon game. It should be exciting.
What's awesome is that, like, even if you lose, you're not out of it. So it's got that like one game playoff drama, but you almost have like a consolation if you do lose.
I feel like it's a real detriment though to whoever loses this game to have to play like 2 kind of like the 1 games like that, which I don't love having to go to Wrigley. I know we're even hotter than the Cubs lately, but I still don't like going to Wrigley and having to go up against Quintana, who's really had the Brewers number for the most part.
Definitely with you there.
All right, but back into football. Got us a showdown slate tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
I have a feeling we might disagree on this one a little bit.
That's all right. I'll give people the good view, and then you can just tell me I'm stupid or something like that. So, Draftkings, Chiefs at Broncos tonight. Let's have at it. Again, I skipped over that slide, but if you're new to the station, if you want to go ahead and subscribe. We'll be on here all year long talking fantasy sports, mostly DFS. And if you want to sign up to be a customer, just go ahead and go to the website. It's right down there in the description section. We do baseball, basketball, football.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Right. This is the captain mode, guys. It's still a little bit new to a bunch of people. I feel like people are really starting to get more comfortable with it now. But as we've been mentioning for the last 4 weeks, it's a new beast for a lot of you. And a lot of it's going to come down to luck. Let's be real with it. When you get these slates with 6 guys, there is going to be some luck. Like last week, I talk about right here, like the Will Disley touchdown when it was Seattle versus Chicago. Last week, Cooper Kupp at 50% ownership. Did you play him? Did you not play him?
I was going to say like Aldrick Robinson on the Thursday night slate.
Right, but like nobody played him, so it wasn't as bad. I was thinking Cooper Kupp because he was 50% ownership, and I think most of the Kupp buyers, won. Most who didn't play him probably lost, which, again, I liked him, but there was a really good shot I could have not used him.
Yeah, it's a good point. I get what you're saying.
Like Aldrick was the guy if you wanted to win GPPs, but
yeah, I know what you mean. No one played him.
Right. All right. Potential strategies. So last week, prior to the Thursday night game, one of our Facebook admins, Brad Christensen, he went through the Facebook groups that we run and kind of just put feelers out there and tried to get some conversation going for how people were playing, what they were doing. And I just wanted to bring up a potential strategy. We talked about this on the Showdown review video last Friday. But what it is completely punting a guy. And like I just used Anthony Sherman, for example, tonight because he's only 300. And he actually has scored a touchdown this year. So if I was going to, completely skip a position, that's probably the guy I would pick. What it allows you to do is you're probably eating a 0. But it allows you to do more studying up. And I hadn't really thought about doing that as much in football because it was something I had kind of done in baseball, man. If you could remember, I was big on usually playing a relief pitcher that day, knowing that you might get a 0, but there's a lot of times when batters get 0 too. So paying down to a relief pitcher could be a big help. It allows you to get other studs in your spot. I think it has its way in some of these football showdown slates or captain mode slates. I don't think it's something you always have to do, but when you want to roster high-priced studs like tonight, sometimes you're just going to have to kick over that one position and be willing to eat the 0 in order to get the 5 guys you want instead of trying to get 2 guys who might each get 4 or 5 points.
Yeah, I get that strategy. I haven't personally implemented it yet, but I don't play these captain mode slates that often. It's that's really intriguing.
It'd be tough for you to do it if you don't play, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing in a game of no certainties. That's one thing I can say with certainty. If you don't play, you're probably not using the strategy.
Someone's got jokes this morning, huh?
Jokes and jokes and jokes. Packers won yesterday. DFS won. Albeit, though, I took it on the nose in my year-long league. So I was willing to eat it yesterday because everything else went well.
Yeah, he's just awesome, but still cash, so no biggie.
All right. So who's the top guy on the slate tonight? I think it's unquestionably Patrick Mahomes. This is the guy that you're going to need to get into your lineup. Last week we talked about Todd Gurley as being the guy that you had to roster. Now, Gurley was high-owned. He had a nice game. Because that game worked out uniquely, you could actually get away with not playing Gurley. But I struggle to see a situation here where you get away with not playing Patrick Mahomes tonight. The quarterbacks are a spot you obviously pay attention to with their high floor. And easily, who's better, Case Keenum or Patrick Mahomes? Like, this is kind of the no-brainer from a especially from a cash game perspective at the very least. And like, I like the Denver D in real life, but they're not like a great defense. They're solid. But Mahomes and the Chiefs have given us no reason to think that you wouldn't play Mahomes in this spot. If you skip him in double ups, I would be pretty concerned that you're going to just be throwing your money away. If you want to skip him, do it in GPPs.
Yeah, so you know how I feel about this. And even me, someone who will fade him in tournaments if I play him here, would not fade him in cash games. You can't fade him in cash games because the upside's too high. It's one of those, even if you don't like him and you're playing a cash game, you got to play him because even if he plays bad, the possibility of him rushing for some yards, running for a touchdown, throwing a couple scores, even if he has a bad game, the upside for points is just there.
Let's just say what if Kansas City craps the bed in the first half? Now you're playing in scramble mode. You don't think this Kansas City offense puts up points if they're trying to play from behind? We haven't seen it yet, but I'm willing to bet they would do it.
I agree with that. Now, personally, and this is obviously from a large field tournament, standpoint, I do like Case Keenum a lot here because I think that Kansas City's defense really struggles, and you don't need Case Keenum to be the highest scoring quarterback on the slate. On a full slate, you just need him to be the highest scoring quarterback in this game. But again, this has kind of been a accumulation of what we've been talking about for the past week. Of course, I'm going to not like Mahomes as much as you do here. I mean, that's just, if you've watched this at all, you would know that.
Right. I mean, that one's pretty obvious. And even if Matt, who makes a point of just trying to disagree with me all the time, doesn't like Mahomes as much, even he said he would play him in cash games. So I think that about says enough right there.
Yeah. If I were doing a ball and play him, you can't. You're doing it.
Yeah. He's the best fantasy football player we have on the slate. All right, next up, as far as the skill position players go from Kansas City, my top skill position guy would be Travis Kelce. It starts with the fact that, well, one, Kelsey's just awesome. So I don't think we need to get into too much detail about why you would like him. But second, Denver's not great against the tight end position. They had their struggles last year, and a lot of this comes from the fact that they do have a pretty decent pass rush. They do have decent cornerbacks, making using the wide receivers a little bit more difficult. They ranked 21st against the tight end so far this year, and they haven't exactly played a good collection of tight ends either. Will Disley went beast mode on them week one, which is about all you really need to say. I think he's safer than Tyreek Hill. He's also cheaper. He's not big play reliant oftentimes like Tyreek Hill, so he's going to be more consistent. And outside of week one, where he was almost like an afterthought, he's been getting a ton of targets lately, and this is the one guy I feel comfortable will have Patrick Mahomes' eye. Mahomes is good at spreading it around, but Kelsey's kind of the most consistent of the skill position players in my eyes.
So I like Kelce also, and it's for similar reasons, but a little bit different. As we've talked about a little bit, I think Kansas City does struggle a little offensively in this game, but either way, Kelsey's just so good that if they're playing well, he's going to be involved. And if they're trying to come from behind, he's going to be that target over the middle. And even if they are struggling a little bit, like I just said, he's kind of that comfort zone target that Mahomes will go to no matter what. So it's hard to see a game flow situation where he is not involved. Again, anything can happen. The targets might not be there, but you got to assume just looking at this slate from a bird's eye view that he's right at the top of the list.
Right. And sometimes it can be as simplistic as he's just really good.
Yeah, agreed with that, especially on a 2-game slate. Like, I like a lot of the Denver options, but I mean, I'm not going to sit there and think that Kansas City doesn't move the ball at all, and he's just awesome.
All right, so next up, I want to talk about the Denver running back situation. So Phillip Lindsay was ejected last week. So if you see the spike down in his statistics, and that wasn't something you were aware of, it's definitely worth mentioning that he didn't play most of that game. So you're not going to see good stats when you're not in there. That's another thing I can speak with pretty good certainty. If you're not in the game, you're not going to accumulate stats. I've seen no reason this is going to pull from his playing time, though. I assume he's just as safe as he was weeks 1 and 2. Not that we went into week 1 thinking he was safe. But his price is nice considering the lack of cheap options we have in other areas. Kansas City currently ranks 32nd against the run for fantasy football purposes. And my best guess is he's in a timeshare with Royce the 5'11", and I think it's definitely okay to play both.
Agreed. I kind of broke it down in the write-up last night when I was talking about the 2-game slate, which obviously is a lot different because we had 2 good offenses last night. Both are firmly in play. It's hard to kind of differentiate between both of them. If I was forced to choose, I'd probably use Lindsay in cash and Freeman in tournaments simply because it looks like Lindsay might get a few more touches, but Freeman has the higher upside, just bigger play capabilities. That being said, they're both so even in both that you just play whichever one you like more. Both priced right. I'm with you.
It's very similar to last night if you played part of the Sunday night game. trying to choose between Buck Allen and Alex Collins can be really, really difficult because both of them have their role within the offense. Now, Collins caught the touchdown, so I think he finished slightly ahead of Buck Allen, but Buck Allen was in there as the closer. I think their point total is really close, and I think that's your best guess for tonight is that Lindsey and Royce will be relatively similar. If I only had to choose one, I'd go with Lindsey, but he's also higher priced. So if you can only fit Royce in your lineup, I think you can go that way. And I do think it's okay to play both. Kansas City has had their struggles against the run so far this year.
Sure.
All right. If I were to play one Denver wide receiver, again, price matters here because Demaryius Thomas is less money than Emmanuel Sanders by a decent amount too, enough that it's not one of those things where you pick one. You do have to consider price. But one area where Kansas City has struggled defensively is giving up big chunk yardage plays. And right now, with no Eric Berry around, I don't believe that is something that's going to change. And Emmanuel Sanders has been the deep threat for the Denver Broncos. And this goes back to what we harped on week one when we were, at least I was borderline in love with Emmanuel Sanders. Case Keenum has a real affinity with throwing to the slot. He has been so much more effective per target than Demaryius Thomas as far as putting up DK points. This is the guy that I would want on my roster. I'm not saying Thomas is a bad play, but if just given the option between the two of them and you can swing the salary difference, I want Emmanuel Sanders on my lineup.
I agree with you. I like both these guys a lot. I do love Sanders here. I almost feel as strong about him as you did in week one. I like Denver a lot in this spot. I think Sanders eats for all the reasons you said. I think he balls here. Monday Night Football against a division rival at home. I just like both of those guys a lot. I think Sanders is the guy you want, if price isn't a thing. But if you have to drop down, drop down. And personally, I think playing both of them is fine.
Demaryius Thomas, to my eyes, just looks like he's lost a little bit from when he was really good a few years ago. I don't think he's a bad wide receiver anymore, but I think Sanders just looks quicker out of his breaks, why he's been so much more effective per touch at the very least. But Thomas is still getting a bunch of targets. So for a price difference, I can see playing either of them. But if I was only choosing one, I think we're both fully in agreement there. Emmanuel Sanders is the guy I want on my roster. I think his upside is greater than Thomas.
Yeah, with Thomas, you're hoping for some red zone targets and a couple short touchdowns. It's doubtful you see the big play from him right now. I'm with you.
All right. Want to join the DFS 5-pack team? We would love to have you guys. Just go sign up to be a member. All the information's down there in the description section. Don't take it from us. Take it from the customers. And that being said, that's about all we wanted to cover for this one. So good luck tonight. We're going to jump right into some baseball information after this and go through the 2-game slate. And we'll see you guys in just a little bit.
Go Broncos.